it's all the anticipation, really, isn't it? That's all there is to the apocalypse. It's this for about 50 years.
They've got to keep us right, haven't they? What about what can you tell us about what would have been your personal apocalypse or epiphany? Was there what do you see? Maybe there's been more than one of them. But
well, I'm in an ongoing state of apocalypse in many respects. It's sort of, I mean, I think that one of the key ones for me was being thrown out of school.
I'm going back to that. I thought that would have been a major turning point.
But probably before that, it was the things that led me to be thrown out of school that were, in many ways, the apocalypse. It was becoming part of the entire 1960s counterculture, even if only a bit belatedly, 68, 69. And it was the incredible effect of that whole experience. I mean, yes, obviously psychedelic drugs were part of that. I mean, you've only got to look at me, really, haven't you?
But is there a moment? I mean, is there an instance where you go, well, this is something where you felt there was a change? I mean,
probably it would have been at the Canned Heat concert at Hyde Park, where I'd taken the tablet about 30 to 40 minutes before, and I thought, well, I'm not feeling anything yet. Then I closed my eyes, and that was probably the moment when I suddenly realised, oh, there's more than one reality, isn't there? Which was quite a key to a lot of my subsequent writing, realising that reality was entirely a construction of my own perceptions, and that if those perceptions changed, the reality changed.
What year was this then?
That would have been, 60... 69, possibly 1970. I think 69.
Right. And subsequently, have there been other? I know you had your declaration on your birthday that you were going to be a magician.
That was quite a big moment as well. Even though I was.
But was there something preceding that? That's obviously like an outcome, presumably something before that. That wasn't just a spontaneous. I'll do it on my birthday. There must have been something prior to that. Again, it opened new doors.
It was a feeling that I was getting to the end of a line. That in terms of my writing, I was feeling that I was polishing it. I was continuing to make it progressive. But I was starting to feel that you can only polish a thing so much before perfect things are kind of boring.
It's about the cracked bowl, isn't it, in China? The idea of there being an imperfect object in Japan, rather. Yeah.
But
we want that crack.
That it's like I was starting to feel that I'd reached the limits of how far I could usefully progress with the thinking that I was employing at that time, which was rationalism. And I figured that there had to be a step beyond that if I wanted to continue as a writer and continue moving as a writer. Because
what were you writing that made you realise you were doing too much polishing then? Was something like Big Numbers something where maybe you felt...
Well, it was, Big Numbers, I really wish that I'd been able to bring that to completion. But I think it was when I was working on From Hell, and not that I was thinking that was over-polished, but that was what led me into some of the ideas that would suggest that there was something beyond writing, or that if you continued the path of writing far enough, you would cross over some borderline of rationality and you would be in magic. That you would be in somewhere that was transrational. And after I'd pursued a career in magic, I realised that from the very beginning, magic has been almost an entirely linguistic phenomenon. That is what it's all about. That the very act of writing, or any other form of creation for that matter, is an act, it's a magical act. You're bringing something out of nothing. That is something that happens so often that we don't even think about it. But it's obviously the most crucial thing in the world. Where do ideas come from? certainly as a writer, it seemed that it would be better if I understood that. If I was making my living and paying my mortgage purely on the back of my ideas, you want to know what the supply line is, don't you? I mean, that's just common sense. So, yeah, that was... and then I got to a particular panel in From Hell where I suddenly had...
So which panel is that?
It was where you'd got John Netley and Dr. Guller enjoying a nice plate of steak and kidney pie. I think somewhere in Earl's Court. And Dr. Gull, in between mouthfuls of steak and kidney, says something to the effect that the one place that gods exist netly, that the gods inarguably exist, is in the human mind. And there they are real in all their grandeur and monstrosity. And I wrote that, I thought, that's ringing and resonant, you know, and then I thought, oh, Christ, that's true, isn't it? It's I can't think of a way around that. So I'm going to, for the sake of this little speech balloon, I'm going to have to change my entire life, aren't I? I'm going to have to transform, because it was true. I'd accidentally written something true. You know, I didn't plan to. It just happened like that, you know. And it was, from there, it was a few short steps to drunkenly declaring that I was now a magician on the night of my 40th birthday. You know, some people, they just wake up the next morning with a tattoo or something like that, but no, I was a magician.
And has there been another change and an epiphany since that one? Remember for your 50th, was it time for your 50th at all?
Well, my 50th was a sort of around about then, and this wasn't planned, but I had the marvellously black epiphany of severing my relationships with the comics industry and pretty much everybody else, really. It's sort of the film industry.
Bringer of the apocalypse, right?
Yeah, just find me an industry and I will sever my connections with it. You know, in fact, I did try a brief career as a hostage negotiator, but that ended ruinously.
I was so disappointed that you're
kill them all. But I'm going to take my name off of the Voodoo miniseries.
Yeah, because I mean, your curse on the Watchmen movie didn't work. I was so hoping it was going to work.
Don't you think, Paul?
Well, it worked a little bit. It's a terrible film, but it got released.
It got released, but
sort of bring the films up,
which just sort of actually, to my mind, demonstrated that yes, I was right all along, and and it cost Warner Brothers an immense amount of money. I mean, they lost millions because they had forgotten that they'd already signed contracts with 20th Century Fox in the 80s. You know, they'd forgotten, so they ended up getting vastly penalised.
You've got several corporations within your sites, and you've got several of them all completely
running
around.
And
so yes, it did work, probably.
And then Paul Levitt's got fired. So regarding his mistreatment, apparently, of the Watchmen film. So, result, you know.
Good. And so
I just sat there steepling my fingers, you know, in my lair.
Now, the novel you're working on, is that, you mentioned the new chapter, how much more is there to go? It's going all right?
There's 9 chapters to go. It's going swimmingly, apart from the fact that I've, about nearly a year ago, I suddenly was overcome by the compulsion to produce an underground magazine.
Yeah, I've noticed.
And I just thought it was about time. It was reacting specifically to problems in the neighbourhood that I was born in.